prone to leave the God I love. Take my heart, oh, take and seal it from thy courts above. We're looking at some do's and don'ts about sharing a message. Preaching, whether it's a small group or a large group, young or old, it should not degenerate into scolding. Frankness should not exclude tenderness. The preacher should be as honest and candid and frank as possible, but not scold the congregation. The preacher should look at the congregation. A shifty-eyed preacher is a sorry sight. Someone who won't look you in the eye. You wonder if they're up to much good. Adapt the message to the congregation. Be concise. Don't be a windbag or a waffler. Thorough preparation is vital. The message will be threadbare without it. Spirit-led is not unprepared. You can be led by the Spirit in all of your studying of the Word and all your preparation. Some people think that the best message is where the preacher has no notes at all and is just Spirit-led. Well, I've discovered two things. One, sometimes when a preacher has no notes at all and is led by the Spirit, it's also the 80th time they've given that message, so they know it. Secondly, when someone has no notes and says they're led by the Spirit, I have heard some dreadful sermons, and it was apparent there was no preparation at all. And we're serving Christ. Does that honour the King of Glory? Humour can be useful as a tool, but the preacher's aim is not to stand up to amuse. It's not a platform for a comedian. Now, humour is very useful, and if God has given you a gift of humour, then use it, because as soon as people are laughing and laughing at themselves, then you can come in with the Word of God like that and catch them off balance. That's the way it works. We come in, you see, with all our defences up. And humour just diffuses the situation. And I start to relax. And I forget that I'm in church. And I start listening and identifying. And then, there's the Word of God, like an exocet. Got through all the defences. This is an important guideline. You cannot show that you are clever and Jesus is wonderful at the same time. He must increase and I must decrease. You can only teach from a flowing stream. So reading well-chosen books will add depth to your ministry. I've been looking at the library here in the church, some marvellous books there. And to get into books by Oswald Chambers or Matthew Henry or A.W. Tozer, people like this, it adds body to the message, and it builds you up as a vehicle that God can use. You may prepare the body of the message and then top and tail it later. And that is, the Word of God is growing in you, the theme is beginning to develop, you're working it out, and you can save to the end, how can I top and tail it? Like, here's the meal that's been cooked, now can I garnish it or make it look attractive in some way? That might not necessarily be the first thing that you do. George Campbell Morgan said this: the three essentials of a sermon are truth, clarity, and passion. The best sermons are those we've preached to ourselves first and discovered that it works. The aim of John Newton's preaching was this: break a hard heart and heal a broken heart. Here's a test. When you have finished speaking, do people know what you've said? I mean, your Sunday school class, your young people's group, you go to seminars in different places and they issue you with an evaluation sheet. You know, what did you think of it so far? Rubbish! What did you get out of it? Now, how willing are we to say to people, well, did you get anything out of that? What do you think was the message? What was God saying to you? And children are wonderful for telling you the truth. I'm not sure what he was saying because I couldn't understand your words. Now that is very helpful, and it's something the preacher needs to know. If he's used words that the children don't understand, then he might as well have been preaching in Serbo-Croat. It's not very helpful. So another thing is very helpful. You know, in the Word it says we should encourage one another. And that is, if the pastor has spoken, if someone has come and brought a word and something has blessed you, go and tell them. It encourages them. They realise, that did go home then, or that was helpful. And maybe 2 or 3 people have come up afterwards and said, when you shared about this, I found that helpful because my mother is sick and I have to care for her, and sometimes I'm fed up doing it. And what you said helped me. And maybe someone else comes alongside and says something similar, and another person does, and you realise that here is empathy. You're responding to people's felt needs. The preacher needs to be relevant. There's no point in standing 6 feet above contradiction in a pulpit and just spouting. It needs to be locked into, geared into life, so that the message does what it is intended to do. 1 or 2 more things. Oh yes, another. Try and avoid saying in conclusion. I don't know, it kind of, whenever I say it, it always gives me a new lease of life. And I know that it can sort of disappoint the congregation. You keep your eyes on the congregation. We've all got these different ways, haven't we, of sort of, I don't want to go and look at my watch in the congregation. If someone's going on too long, I don't want to go. Now they might get the message, or on the other hand they might not at all. We all have this sneaky little way of seeing how long he's been going on for.